It is now my honor and privilege to introduce this year's keynote speaker, Alison Eakle, Chief Content Officer at Shondaland, the pioneering storytelling company. I will start by telling you that when we were talking about who might give this year's address, the radio, television, film chair Cindy McCreary mentioned that a Moody alum produced Bridgerton. I may or may not have used that as an excuse to watch the series for the second time, and thankfully Alison said yes before I made my husband watch it a third. I have now had the opportunity to meet the inspirational yet humble Alison Eakle. Alison graduated from UT with her master's degree in screenwriting in 2006. Over the past 2 decades, she's made a tremendous name for herself and had a huge impact on Hollywood, co-producing some of the biggest shows we know. I already mentioned Bridgerton, which premiered in 2020 and at the time was the most watched series debut in Netflix history. I'll admit to contributing to those figures just a little. Bridgerton is now entering its 3rd season, which premieres next week, so good timing. The series has been critically acclaimed as magnetic and addictive, a period piece that redefines period pieces. It has commanding performances, extravagant costumes, and lavish sets that depict the romance of the Regency era. As co-executive producer, Alison is part of the vision behind these elements, working with writers, directors, cinematographers, costume designers, and others to bring that vision to the screen. It's an enormous accomplishment and not Alison's only one. There's also Queen Charlotte, which she co-produced, along with Inventing Anna, How to Get Away with Murder, and Station 19. I'll allow her to tell you a little more. Would everyone please welcome to the podium the incredibly talented Alison Eakle.
Y'all, the shoes are on fire. I just have to say it, it's incredible. Good afternoon. I have to start by thanking not only Moody College, Dean Mercy, and Professor McCreary for inviting me, but truly y'all for this humbling and huge opportunity. It's not lost on me how lucky I am to be here to celebrate what you've achieved over these utterly wild recent years, or how lucky I am to have been here in the mid-2000s enjoying the formative experience of an RTF education. This city and this school fundamentally shaped me as a storyteller and a human being, and for that I'm forever grateful. But I will admit that when I was first asked, my immediate thought was, oh no, I'm not Bono. Let me explain. For weeks prior to my undergrad graduation, word on the street was we were getting Bono. And side note, my friends were like, please be cognizant of your age, and explained that Bono is the lead singer of Irish rock band U2 and a world-renowned activist. He was a big deal, it was a big get. But a week before he canceled, and his last-minute replacement was some president from a nearby college, and I swear to God, I honestly don't remember a word she said. I just remember being slightly hungover in the rain, hoping my divorced parents would get along. They did great. Sad about leaving my friends, and bummed my unrequited college love looked like he was gonna stay that way. So trust me, I have sat where you sit, and I'm deeply aware of how not Bono I am. I'm also aware that many of you never got a traditional high school graduation because of COVID, and that made me think a lot about what you hear at a high school graduation. Take the next 4 years to experiment, to let what you love find you. Oh, make mistakes as you stumble towards glory. And you don't necessarily hear that at a college or grad school commencement, but I wish the rallying cry I'd heard that day had invited me to let go of any preconceived notions of what I was supposed to be doing with my life. Because trust me when I tell you, I may have left UT with a terminal degree, but I was so far from finished. Obviously, the degree I obtained was an MFA in screenwriting, but I'm clearly not here to talk to you about the shows I created or the Oscar-winning movies I've written. Oops. I am here to talk to you about my failures, my detours, and about how my calling had to chase me down and scream in my face several times before I accepted it. And my hope is that taking you through the twists and turns of my journey in a highlight reel of hard-to-swallow realizations and surprisingly liberating pivots might be something I could offer that Bono could never. Growing up in Jersey, I dreamt of becoming an actress, and at 13, even made a go at it professionally for a couple years. But my parents soon wisely nudged me back to my studies. So I stuffed down those dreams and took on the real role of a lifetime, someone very serious. I became student body president. I interned for a state senator. I even won a Navy ROTC scholarship to Georgetown, thinking I'd become a judge advocate general. That's right, I ran so far and so fast from a life in the arts that I enlisted in the military. But what I think I really wanted was to play Demi Moore's role in A Few Good Men. That's more probable. 2 weeks before college, the Navy medically disqualified me for an autoimmune condition, or saw straight through me, let's be real. But I was devastated, and I was down a lot of money for school. It was not what I was anticipating. But what I was also not anticipating going to Georgetown for government, only to be pulled back to the arts by the magnetic cohort of comedians, filmmakers, and writers I'd encountered there. People like Jonah Nolan, Mike Birbiglia, Nick Kroll, Zalmat Monglich, Britt Marling, John Mulaney. There, I found a professor mentor and helped start both our campus's TV station and film festival, and by the end, I was completely dedicated to screenwriting. And when I thought of where I wanted to go hone that craft, UT in Austin loomed large in my imagination ever since I watched Dazed and Confused and Rushmore. Yeah, whatever world produced Richard Linklater and Wes Anderson was where I wanted to be. The script I wrote that got me in here was actually set at UT, what a kiss up. But I'd actually never set foot here. I moved here not knowing a soul, and honestly found that first semester lonely, and that writing could be lonely. I moved into an apartment at Guadalupe and 38th, next door to what I would soon learn was a meth lab. And I wrote a 160-page semi-autobiographical coming-of-age movie about my conversion to Catholicism and the death of Kurt Cobain. Wow, do you guys see why I'm not standing here a working screenwriter? Oof, 160, I should have been suspended. But my second semester, I had a class with Richard Lewis where he basically let me write an Adam Sandler comedy. Yeah! And he restored my faith in this path. But writing features still felt too solitary. I'm a social animal. I thrived collaborating with MFA directing students on their short films, acting, script supervising, begging Jimmy John's for free sandwiches for catering. I loved going to ACL Fest and working 3 jobs. But while doing all those things, I felt guilty because it always felt like I should be writing, and when I wasn't writing, I was failing. However, in class workshops, sharing feedback with my peers, I came alive. Being invited to imagine how their work could come to life on screen and offering up ideas that seemed to actually help them, ideas they could execute on, even if I had no idea how I would have done it. I also came alive as a teaching assistant for RTF 333, Intro to Screenwriting for Richard Lewis and then Scott Rice, helping undergrads invest in their work. And when I took the first ever at UT television writing class, stopped by Stuart Kelvin back here, I came alive again. TV writing wasn't lonely. You worked in a room with other writers, sometimes in breaking the season, but sometimes by literally group writing episodes. This is an amazing discovery. We were assigned to write specs or sample episodes, and I decided to tackle my absolutely favorite new show my roomies and I would watch every week, live if you can believe it, Grey's Anatomy. I would later confess in my first interview with Shonda and my other incredible boss, her producing partner Betsy Beers, that I gave up almost immediately. A medical show that good? I think I'll switch to the OC. But TV was a revelation. And shortly after that, I graduated, and my childhood best friend Ashley and I moved to LA together to be TV writers. But while she and her boyfriend Bart actually became writing partners, I took a corporate 12 hours a day assistant job at Paramount Marketing, where I could not leave my desk and often had to wear my phone headset to bathroom breaks, but it gave me healthcare and access, and I was learning so much. But what I wasn't doing was writing. I was even in a writing group with Ashley and Bart and 3 of my closest UT friends, but eventually stopped turning pages in and would just give feedback. And we joked that I was playing the role of a development executive until I suddenly had the eureka moment. Maybe it wasn't a joke. What if I really tried to transition into a development assistant gig? And when I eventually did, I loved how development was pulling together a viable project out of some small germ of an idea. I could do that. I could give a real writer that and let them turn it into something amazing. I'd been doing that. I was so happy, except that I also felt so old at 29 to have discovered that this is what made me happy. In a town that runs under 30 lists, and where I once had a work drinks with another assistant who said, not knowing I was a 31-year-old assistant, mind you, "If I'm still an assistant when I'm 30, kill me." And I was like, "Oh, I will kill you, right here at Earth Cafe on Melrose." But by 32, I'd finally gotten my full executive job. And I recall Stuart Kelvin once said to me, "Eakle, you're a good writer, but you're a born exec, and I think you're gonna run Hollywood someday." And I was furious. How dare you, Stuart? I was a writer. But he knew what I didn't know yet. And what I didn't realize was being a born exec isn't a bad thing. The single biggest lesson I learned here, aside from realizing I may not love writing as much as I love writers, was that all writing is rewriting. But I'd only just started a process that the real project that I had to rewrite was me. And as a student here, I never dreamed I'd be overseeing a culture-defining company slate, let alone getting to uphold the legacy of a history maker like Shonda. And over the past 11 years, it's been a privilege to work with two women who have rewritten television history with shows like Grey's, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, and to be a part of that now with Bridgerton. What a privilege to leave audiences super entertained while also changing people's minds about whose stories you should see on your screens, amplifying the voices of women, people of color, the LGBTQ community. And trust me, I still had a lot to learn when I landed in Shondaland. I had to rewrite myself from a very junior development executive to a true producer. And what does a true producer do? They pivot. You know, that thing that I did in total shame for years, from acting to the Navy to government to features to TV writing to just not writing. Well, I found a job where pivoting went from being my kryptonite to my superpower. And that screenwriting MFA from this world-class college was not wasted, because as a producer, all I do is communicate. A huge part of my job is just making sure exceptionally different people don't just talk to each other, but really hear each other. There's no right way to give a note or one solution for every problem. Oh my God, there are so many problems. There are creative problems, production problems, management problems, and solving problems all hinges on communication, chiefly helping people understand the best way to tell their story. And very soon after starting at Shondaland, I would meet the love of my life, finally, at 33, only to get chronically ill months into dating him and be humbled by needing his help doing everything from getting dressed to opening doors. Time to rewrite. Years later, I would have 3 miscarriages over 18 months, one of which involved a D&C that to this day I'm so grateful was safe and legal. Time to rewrite. And then suddenly, at nearly 41 in a global pandemic, it just happened, and I had a baby boy. And in parenthood, I'm thinking about your parents. And in parenthood, I rewrite daily. It's the best skill I learned because it's one of resilience, and I don't do it alone, and neither will you. You will help each other rewrite. The people sitting next to you right now. That writing group in LA that I never actually wrote for, Ash and Bart, would go on to eventually create the series Yellow Jackets. And ask my UT friends from that group, Omni, Rosha, and Liz Pong, to be executive producers on the show. And the 6th member of our group was Kimberly Jones, editor-in-chief of the Austin Chronicle. My UT cohort and students I taught are now award-winning writers, producers, and documentarians. They're huge indie film agents. Many of us wound up together in LA and have cheered each other on for almost 2 decades. What a gift UT gave me. I want to close by hearkening back to who else? Bono. Campus legend was, he'd had a pretty good reason for bailing, a meeting with the new Prime Minister of Afghanistan, because 9/11 happened my senior year. I watched the Pentagon burn from campus, and I called Ashley, who watched the second tower fall from her Columbia dorm rooftop. And we sat on the phone together, wondering, like, is this it? Is this the end? So I really have been you, possibly hungover, possibly dealing with awkward family dynamics, about to step into the supposed real adult times in a moment of total uncertainty and deep grief on a global scale. And perhaps counterintuitively, it encouraged me to move towards hope and community and telling stories that might make everyone feel less alone and more seen. So if at some point, or even right in this very moment, you think to yourselves about your field of study, I actually don't want to do this. I don't think I love this. I'm not really as good at this as I thought. That's great news. That's as powerful a piece of knowledge as you could ever leave here with. It won't make everything you learned here any less relevant or crucial. It just all informs the journey. Living is rewriting. You're promised nothing, you are guaranteed nothing. You all know this. This has been your collective lived experience since you were teens. It's a terrifying thought. I feel that big time, but I think it also can be a liberating and a hopeful thought. As the exceptional graduates of Moody College, you'll be asked to choose every day not only what you communicate with your voice, but the voices you amplify. You'll be asked to help people actually hear each other. And I cannot wait to see what you do with this immense power. Congratulations, class of 2024. Hook 'em.